This cable right here on your right is your throttle cable. Come through the firewall to run this way, and then there'll be a little clamp that'll clamp your cable right here to your carburetor. And then this wire is stripped from your cable, approximately 6 inches. And then this will feed through the valve on your open close in your carburetor here. And then going around to the other side here, we have our choke cable coming out of the firewall. And it's this cable right here, and then it'll run this way, go through this clamp, and then your cable will be pushed down onto this valve right here. The wire is stripped about 4 inches. The first step is we have to remove this bolt that is threaded directly into our carburetor. Push back our wire that's on our throttle cable so we can get this wire pushed through a little opening on your valve here. So when you pull on your cable, the valve will open. With your wire now pushed back, we can get it lined up with the hole on your valve. On your dashboard side, now just push your throttle cable all the way in. Now back on the engine side, you can see how your throttle cable has been pushed through the hole on your valve. Now we can install your throttle cable clamp, and your clamp will be orientated this direction with the hole facing up. And make sure you open up your clamp enough so you can slide it through the wire as so, and then push it back onto the cable. Before we bolt on our clamp, you're going to have to squeeze close the gap on our clamp so the bolt will thread all the way through easier. We will use the same bolt that we took out of our carburetor and make sure that there's a lock washer installed. Before you tighten your cable down to your carburetor, make sure the throttle is readable and is the right side up. With your bolt now inserted through the hole on your clamp and the bracket that holds up your choke cable aligned with the hole, we can now thread it all together. We can now proceed to tighten this bolt once you have your hole lined up with your clamp for your throttle cable and your choke cable clamp. And now we can tighten this, but you want to make sure that your throttle cable is in line with the valve. The last step to the throttle cable installations, we have to install our throttle cable stop. And to do so, we'll unloosen the bolt at the very top here. And that's a little hole in the side. We'll push this hole through the bottom of our cable here, just pushing it all the way through, pushing it all the way up, and then we will secure it with this bolt at the top. Now continue to tighten your stop, but also ensure there's a gap between your stop and your valve here, because you want to ensure that this does not bind or get jammed up and there's a little bit of free play. Now going over your throttle cable. So when your throttle cable is pushed all the way in, you go over to your carburetor and your valve for your accelerator is fully closed. So when you pull on your throttle cable, you can see how the accelerator valve opens, and then you know your cable is working properly. The choke cable comes out of the firewall the same as your throttle cable does, and your choke cable will run down the distance and attach to your carburetor. It'll attach to your carburetor choke bracket here, the same bracket that you actually use to bolt in your throttle clamp. And then this cable will run through your bracket and then attach to your choke valve on the side of your carburetor down here. To install our choke cable onto our carburetor, we have to bend up our choke cable in this direction so we can stick our wire right through our choke bracket attached to our carburetor. We'll push it through the bracket, sliding it all the way down. Now it is time to install our choke cable directly into the valve set screw. So to do so, we'll lift up the choke cable here a little bit and then just push it right through the hole. This might be kind of tricky, but it'll go. And as so, your wire has been pushed through the set screw now. On the dashboard, just push your choke cable all the way in, and that will seat the cable into your valve. Now seat your choke cable all the way down to this bracket, just pushing your choke cable all the way down, and now we will tighten this bolt. On the dashboard, ensure the written word choke is straight and readable before we tighten up our bracket. Make sure that your choke valve is pushed all the way down to ensure that when your choke cable is not pulled out, your choke is not engaged. Just pull all the way down. And now we can set this bolt. Now tighten your set screw with a wrench, and that will tighten up your set screw to your wire. Now I'm gonna test try your choke and show you how it works. So when your choke is pushed all the way into the dashboard, you go around to your carburetor here, and your valve on your choke is pushed all the way down. It's very important that your choke is pushed all the way down when your cable is pushed all the way into the dashboard, so your choke is not running when you're driving your engine. And that is how you install your choke and throttle cable.